Welcome to the Global Assembly of Nations, a place of Lord's righteousness, faithfulness, salvation, love, and truth.
Father Adonai, I have proclaimed what is right in the great assembly. I did not restrain my lips, O Adonai. I did not hide your righteousness in my heart, but declared your faithfulness and salvation. I did not conceal your love and truth from the global assembly of nations. Oh, help me, Adonai.
Thank you very much. I'm happy that today you are part of the Great Assembly when we'll be looking at series number 5 of part 1. And specifically, we'll be talking about the generations of Noah. In our last series, we were looking at what happened during the floods. And we found out that man suffered the consequences of sin after having allowed Satan to change the order and allow the body to lead the spirit, which was against the will of God and the order that God had given from the beginning when he was naming Adam. So join me as we discuss the generations of Noah. There's one thing that I want us to note even as we begin, that the world up to this point is one nation. It is one nation. It is one race. Actually, we are beginning with one family, the family of Noah. And what we'll be seeing is that after the floods, the people from this single family, the family of Noah, started to populate the earth. And people started multiplying on the face of the earth. And you shall allow me so that we can read our text today and see what happened thereafter, so that we can take it from there. And our reading today will again be from the book of Genesis chapter 9, verses 21 and 22. Genesis 9, verse 21 and 22. It says that, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. And Shem, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren. This is the assembly of nations, and we want to join the dots so that we can bring the whole picture of what happened. And where we have just read, this is Noah. Right after the floods, is now relaxing, and we see him, or we meet him from where we have just read, sleeping in a drunken state. And there's something that I want to remind you that we had mentioned in the beginning, that when Adam was leaving the Garden of Eden, there is a garment that he had been given by God himself, the only garment in history that was made by God. You can say made in heaven or made in Eden by God himself. This garment had been given or entrusted to Enoch by Adam. And Enoch, when just before he was translated, he gave it to Methuselah. And Methuselah, just before the floods, gave it to Noah. And this is the garment that Noah was having the day that we have just read. And he was loosely covering himself with it. But when Ham, his son, saw it, he decided to take it from his father. Ham knew very well that his father Noah would give this garment to Shem, and therefore his generations would never see it. So Ham, on this day, took the garment secretly from the drunken father and concealed it from his brethren. And very first he called for his brethren, that was Japhet and Shem, to come and cover the father who was now naked. And they did so and covered him. And of course, when the father realized later, we know that he cursed Canaan. Again, the consequence of sin. He did not this time curse Ham, who did this, who sinned, but he cursed Canaan, his son. Very interesting. But now, what I want us to look at is that after this happened, Noah continued to live with these people, and Noah lived for 350 years. For 350 years after the flood. We found out that at 600 years, that's when the flood started. And on this other side of the flood, he starting at the age of 600 and lived for another 350 years. And what was the strategy of God to allow Noah to live for all these years after the floods, when he had already decided that after the floods, people will not live for more than 120 years? And I want us to discover that this was very strategic, because Noah was to set the stage for the next covenant. He was to set the stage for the next covenant. We saw the Adam covenant, the Noah covenant that was made after the floods, and now Noah was to set the stage for the Abrahamic covenant. If you look at the chart appearing on your screen, you realize that Abram was the 10th generation from Noah through Shem. And at that time, Noah was 892 years. I've just said that he lived 350 years. So you realize that there were quite a number of years that Noah lived with Abraham. And we'll be looking in details at that later, because it's very, very important for us to be able to understand where we are going to. But before we discuss that, I want to introduce what we are doing next time, because we shall be coming back again to Ham. Because as we had seen in the beginning, Cain being the picture of the sinful nature of man, and Seth being the picture of the righteousness of man, Ham here takes the picture of Cain, or the sinful nature of man, and Shem takes the picture of righteousness of God through man. And therefore, in our next series number 6, we will be looking at Ham again to see what happened after what the episode that we have just seen here. What consequences was Ham to face with his family for the sin that he had committed. And therefore, please join us in our next episode, series 6, as we look at Nimrod the hunter. Don't miss.
Thank you for taking your time at the Global Assembly of Nations, the place of love and truth. Kindly leave us with your feedback and follow us at Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Global Assembly of Nations. You can also subscribe with our YouTube channel at Global Assembly of Nations. Remember that you can partner with us or support us by clicking the appropriate button below. For now, goodbye.